Hello, and welcome back to Live with Kate, a show every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Central, where we talk about witchcraft through the gray magic lens. I am so excited about today's topic. We're going to be talking about everything Samhain, the upcoming Sabbat on Halloween, October 31st. So I want to jump in case you're very new to witchcraft or very new to paganism, about what a Sabbat is, and then we'll dive deeper into Samhain. We'll go over the history and why it's celebrated now. And then I want to make sure that we have enough time to go over all that. So next week, we'll talk about some rituals and celebrations that you can take part in. So hopefully you'll tune in next week for that as well. But right now, if you would just tell me that you're here, comment, like, love this video so that I know that you're here. And you give me a thumbs up or a like. So thank you so much. So to start off, let's talk about what is a Sabbat, right? What does that mean? So simply put, a Sabbat is a celebration of the turning of the wheel, the turning of the wheel of the year. So that's basically just changing from one season to another. Traditionally, it was a way within the community to celebrate together, but you can absolutely celebrate Sabbats even if you're a solitary witch. So a Sabbat is a earth-oriented agriculture and solar-based celebration that represents the changing of the seasons and the harvest. So it's celebrating the passage of the sun and the new seasons. And then one thing about the Wheel of the Year that I really love to share with people is you want to think of the wheel of a year as like not a beginning point or an end point, but it's cyclical, right? So no matter where you're at in the cycle or in the circle, you can jump in and start celebrating wherever. So if you're, it's not like you have to celebrate Ostera first, and then that's when you can celebrate Samhain. So it's great because anytime where there is an upcoming Sabbat, if you're new to paganism or witchcraft, you can jump right in. So with that, let's jump into what Samhain is, right? So Samhain is probably the most, I'll say the most well-known witches' Sabbat, as it coincides with All Hallows Eve or Halloween. So it's celebrated on October 31st to November 1st. And what's it about, right? What is Samhain? So many people believe that the boundary between the worlds or the realms is the thinnest on Samhain, since it's also known as Ancestors' Night or Feast of the Dead. So it's believed that this is the best time to communicate with a loved one that has passed on or the beloved dead. So there are, a little bit of I'll say symbols of death involved, right? Samhain is a time of where fall is already in full force, and there's really just a time of like the dying of the crops and life itself going into winter. So you'll see a lot of like skulls to decorate, ghosts, skeletons, and even like grave postings or rubbings for your altar as well. So those are just some fun things to decorate with. But let's jump into what is Samhain from a historical point, and we'll go over a little bit of the origins and some other kind of just witchy tips for you to celebrate this Sabbat. So again, Samhain is the Celtic New Year, a passage or a threshold, the conclusion and the beginning, right? So the green season is over, summer is over, the life of the seed begins. It's time where the earth kind of gets quieter and colder before the future life of agriculture, of plants and crops and fields. Samhain is the time of the last harvest, the last fruits, that kind of sweetness of the richest richness of that what we've been supporting through agriculture in through a long winter. It's the beginning of waiting, or, kind of the internal time for preparation. And it's a time of darkness. This is the time where the seed dwells in the quiet land, kind of in that darkness from which everything begins, that life begins, the silence from which the first vibrations will arrive, that initial void that must be in order for birth to take place. So it is a precious and necessary time, and it's truly a time of rest and silent listening. So this threshold of this passage of the limit between life, death, and life, and then the guardian of this threshold is Hecate, the ancient goddess who is the keeper of the keys. Hecate is one of the goddesses that I worship and have been, I'll say she was my exclusive goddess for a long time when I became a pagan, and now I worship multiple deities, but Hecate is my first goddess and deity that I have worshipped, and she's very near and dear to my heart. So if you want more information on goddesses, go ahead and comment, and maybe we can do a show on dark goddesses at some point too. I think that would be really fun if you guys are interested. So Hecate is the ancient goddess that is represented in Samhain, and I'll say kind of in the dance of life, right? Samhain is the time for us to withdraw, the internal or going internally, and it gives us the opportunity to go in depth into our own being and kind of search for within ourselves. To do this, we obviously have to strip ourselves of the external, to let go of any of those attachments or aspects of ourselves that no longer need to belong in our existence. So Samhain is truly the beginning of a time in which we are ourselves to find our core before returning to the world again. So, and kind of more along, so that's very kind of like what you are celebrating with Samhain, right? A little bit more of the history of Samhain is, Halloween has been celebrated for a few hundred years, whereas Samhain marks it can be dated back to the time of the Druids. So it is definitely has been a long custom of celebration. And Halloween is more of like a secular festival, whereas Samhain truly is a celebration of the holiday, right? It's a night of magic and wonder. It's a time where, again, the veil between the worlds is the thinnest. So it marks the festival of the dead, a celebration of remembrance and honoring our ancestors. All forms of divination will be stronger and very powerful throughout this time. So it's a perfect time to communicate to within the spirit world. So if you have, ancestors or a loved one that has passed on, this is a great time to communicate with them in any and all forms of divination. But truly, you can use it as a time to bring closure into your life as well. As if you have a loved one that has passed on. So kind of a little bit more history for you guys. So the new year began on November 1st with the arrival of autumn and a season transition that was marked by a moment of celebration, right? Those festivities were called Samhain, or Samhain, excuse me. And the anniversary, it's characterized by orange color, as you're remembering the harvest with that orange color, and then black to symbolize that imminent darkness of winter coming up. So the story of Samhain recalls how the harvest season is now over. The herds and animals are brought in for the winter, and families are gathering for long nights of work and storytelling. That is kind of where the tradition started. So according to Celtic mythology, that what today we're, used to having been called Halloween, or the Weekend of the Dead, was Samhain was considered magical because beliefs pulled, or those that believed that the veil was pulled down, and the kind of the veil between worlds, the living and the spirits, now you can communicate very effectively. And there are some different thoughts behind this, right? Like some believe that the veil is always thin if you're practicing that divination. And so I think this is a great time to start to jump into divination. If you're wanting to, start to learn how to read tarot or oracle cards or anything that you've been looking to get into, doing that around Samhain would be really a good time to do that. Because then once you kind of work those muscles and you're able to develop your psychic abilities, then that veil can always be thin for you because it takes practice. And one of the things I should have started with, but now we're just going to go there now, is the pronunciation, right? So Samhain is spelled very different than how it's pronounced, right? So it's spelled Samhain, and it's pronounced saw, like as like the tool that you would use to cut a tree down, right? Win, like, yay, celebrate. So I know that it, like, coming into paganism and learning that, sometimes like a lot of people will say Samhain or Samhain, or Samhain, like I did. I always have to catch myself. I don't know if it's the bit of like Southern twang with my like speech or why I say Samhain, but it is Samhain. So just so you know, and you can pronounce it correct. But no matter how you pronounce it, right, we know what you mean. It's just always good to be able to learn the proper pronunciation. So yeah, so that is just a little bit on Samhain and what this upcoming Sabbat is about. I'm really excited. In the Grey Witches Coven, we are actually going to be doing a ritual together. So if you are interested in the Grey Witches Coven, go ahead and comment, and I will send you a message to tell you a little bit more about the coven. But that live ritual will be on October 30th, and I'm super pumped to be able to do that with the coven. So if you have any questions or want to know anything else regarding Samhain, go ahead and comment below, and make sure that you tune in next week, where we're going to talk about how to celebrate Samhain and go over 5 different rituals or things that you can do to celebrate this Sabbath. So thank you guys so much for tuning in this afternoon, and I look forward to seeing you next time.